What is up YouTube? My name is Sam and I work under the artist name of Kaiyo. So recently I've been spending a lot of time working on my sound. I've just written this track that has got lots of like really intricate layers. I wanted to just jump into a whole studio and talk through a bit of my process. So this is how I made this dreamy guitar driven lo-fi beat. So this here is the project. As you can see, there is quite a lot going on. If I scroll through, you'll see we've got 24 layers. It kind of all flows together really nicely, I think. So I'll just play a quick preview of what we got going on here, and then we'll jump into the track and I'll break down the process of how I wrote this. You can hear it's like super dreamy, super vibey. There's tons of space and like really atmospheric vibe. So I started this track off with a drone sound. Now this is something I'm doing in a lot of my songs because it gives me a really nice vibe just from the get-go. I had this drone playing when I started anything else. We've got a 1 and a 5 of our scale. We're in a D major here. We're at 65 BPM, just continuously playing. It plays for, I think, pretty much the whole song. A little bit of a change at the end. And you might be able to hear there's a little bit of movement. So I actually got my drone with no effects on it, and that's routed to a reverb channel. And on there, I've got a reverb, all of the wet signal through this one. Then I've got Flux Mini, and all that's doing is really quickly automating some sidechain. So you get this kind of like warble effect. And that's only on the reverb. And then I've got an EQ there. So the reverb is just in the higher end. The rest of the drone has that really warm, lovely sound. So that's how I started this track. I then added my piano chords. I don't know what these chords are. They just sounded really lush and really, really lovely. Just playing a 4-bar progression there, just keeping it kind of simple. So yeah, we just got that piano and the drone at the moment. On my piano here, I've got no effects at all. It's just a pure, dry, raw signal. So let's take a look at the drums we got going on here. So I just got a really simple kick and snare, and then a hi-hat. Just kind of keeping it vibey. I'm trying to leave a ton of space for all of the other elements to sort of layer together. This is the first time I've written in this order, so I'd normally start with a piano and a drone, but this is the first time that I've gone straight into the drums. I really wanted the foundation of the track to be there when I started adding in those other elements. On the mixer, we've just got an EQ on the kick, kind of boosting some of those mids, that warm kind of mid-low end. My snare, I'm sure you could hear, had like a little bit of reverb on it. If I take that reverb off, just to give it a really nice dreamy sound. And then the hat just rolled off some of those highs because they were a little too harsh. And those are all routed through to my drum bus here, where I've just got a glue compressor. Once I had those drums, I moved on to the bass. Here I've got a Labs sub bass. Now this is one of my favorite basses at the moment. It gives a really, really warm sound. And I started out following the root notes of the chords and then added a little bit of flair. And on the bass, there isn't too much going on. I just got a roll off of anything above 500, but really anything kind of above 200 hertz is getting sort of rolled off. So we'll listen to how that sounds so far. So we're already starting to get like a really nice vibe just with that really simple piano, drone, bass and drums. There's nothing too complex going on here. Simple chord progression, really simple drums, and then the bass again, like just as simple. Once I had that, I wanted to start playing around with layering, so I started adding in a whole bunch of guitar layers. You'll see here I've got guitar line 1, line 2, line 3, and 3 different guitar ARP sounds. So I started with focusing in on those middle frequencies, trying to stop it from being too harsh or too bassy, and then a Valhalla Supermassive adding a ton of reverb. So once I had that guitar, you start kind of getting then I wrote another ARP which is a little bit higher up. And that one's obviously a little bit more quiet. That sits much more in the background. We've just got an EQ focusing in on what we want to focus in on, and then a Supermassive to add that reverb there to keep it really nice and stop anything from being too harsh. Then moved on to trying to write some guitar melodies. I initially, I think, came up with this, which is a really, really simple guitar riff. I then wrote a second guitar line. Something that I bring in the hooks of the songs, so a bit higher end, a bit more prominent. I kept the processing fairly simple on these, so we've got there an EQ, and then another Valhalla Supermassive on the first one. And then here we've got an EQ again, just focusing on a bit more of a wider range. And then I use this plugin called Solaris, which is sort of a free version of Valhalla Shimmer. It gives that really nice kind of washed out shimmer, I guess. Not overly wet signal, but like a nice big reverb. And then just the one shimmer, one whole octave above. And then I put a limiter on just to make sure that all of those notes were sitting around the same velocity. So once I had those 4 guitar parts, I started arranging parts. This guitar line 1 I initially had in the intro of the song, but I didn't quite like it. So what I did was I copied the melody from that and added it exactly onto a piano. I introduced that melody in the intro here, so it's one of the first things you hear, but then later on we bring the guitar in and then the piano together, so you get like a really nice full sound. But it means that that melody is familiar. When I bring it into the bridge, it's already familiar to the listener, but they're hearing it on a new instrument, which keeps it super interesting and kind of fresh. So once I had all of that together, I started arranging. So we've got here piano, a couple of guitar arps, and then into like the hook when the drums and the bass come in, and you get the melody. So let's take a listen to how that sounds. I did spend quite a lot of time figuring out which guitar parts to layer with each other. So you can see there I've got 2 arps, and then I drop one out to let that melody really shine, and then I bring them both in together. Let's have a little talk about the other 2 guitar parts I've got going on here. This one here I've called guitar arp high. This is playing the same thing as the first one. If we look in the mixer, what I've actually got is an EQ focusing in on those highs. We're ducking one little frequency there, but then I've got Solaris on, really loads of wet signal coming through, a nice big reverb there. So what you actually get is this washed out arp. I use that more as sort of like a pad than anything else. That plays throughout the intro as sort of like a drone, and then I use that again in the bridge here to just build those layers. And then the final guitar part here, guitar line 3, just plays in the bridge and then there in the outro a little bit. Guitar part is just got load of reverb and an EQ focusing on those higher sections. So let's take a listen to how that sounds. Super simple, but just kind of building those intricate layers so that when that comes into the track, you kind of hear this like, oh, what's that new interesting layer? It doesn't really sound like a guitar at all, to be honest. This isn't actually a guitar at all. I guess I initially wanted it to be, and then I swapped it out for an Imagiro piano. Maybe the guitar sound was a bit too harsh, don't really remember. This is how the whole bridge sounds after the main hook, where we bring back in that first melody, the guitar, build up that piano sound, and then you get this interesting piano sound as well. The end of the bridge there, I just built up loads of layers. So we've got 2 pianos, a guitar here, another piano there, misleadingly named guitar, and then we bring in 2 of our arps again to build up before the break. So that's pretty much all of the instruments that are added. There's a couple of other things that are going on here. The drone cuts out for this final section of the bridge. What I really wanted to do was build, and then cut. So we have this really nice distinction. When that final section comes in, everything comes in really together and it sounds kind of really full and really powerful. Leaving the drone in was taking away from that. So I cut the drone out there. There's some transitions going on at the bottom here. So we've got 2 transition sounds that just help you move from intros into hooks. So they just sound like this. Super washed out, but adding their own space and elements at the same time. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Got a couple of automations. So on the drone reverb, I don't actually bring that in until the hook here, and then I bring it back in there. So the volume of, so initially we're starting with just the drone on its own with no effects, just to kind of give those hooks a little bit more emphasis. Volume automation on the master so that the whole song creeps in and then fades out, which is always kind of really nice for like a dreamy track like this. We've got an automation on this guitar up so that it doesn't start too harsh, and it adds tons of movement to those sounds, which makes the whole track feel like it's sort of like flowing. And then I've got another automation here on this guitar arp pad style sound, so it fades in and then slowly fades out before we reach kind of this section, and then yeah, I have it fading in again over the bridge. It sort of like builds and up until finally this crescendo. I had it going louder than it's ever gone in the whole track to really emphasize the fact that we're coming into this big sort of crescendo of the song. Another automation here just fading in that arp, so nothing is too harsh, everything is kind of like subtle. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, this is how the songs come out. I'm super happy with how this track has come out. I'm actually releasing this track on November 17th. It's called Alone With You. It's the first time I've released the track completely independently in almost the whole year. I was really happy with how this track came out. Really kind of just wanted to release it. So I'm putting this out completely independently. I'll put a link in the bio. If you like what you hear, if you want to go and stream the song, please do. That would be amazing. But yeah, I hope you found this tutorial useful. I really wanted to kind of break it down and show you guys this kind of new style that I've been working on, and show you guys what I've been working on, because I've done quite a lot of videos about specific topics or like little kind of helpful tips rather than breaking down my songs. So yeah, this is my new song, Alone With You. It is out on November 17th, which is the day this video drops. Go and have a listen. Yeah, peace.